All right. Pretty sure we're all good to go right now. Pretty sure we're live. Yet again, sorry that I'm not at my normal place, but I've just had stuff going on over in my life. We can talk about the Xfinity Series right fast. I don't know if we're going to have a lot of people here. Let me just make sure it's going through. Just get done on my phone. It's probably going to get an ad. Which, yeah, we're all good to go. So I'm probably only going to be here for like 10, 15 minutes to talk about this slate really fast. Let me just make sure it's going on over here. So if you guys have any direct questions you want me to look at or talk about, I will happily do that. I want to focus primarily on how the builds are going to look in this race, and really how I think we need to approach. Let's really make sure. So I'm probably only going to be here. Cool. Okay, that's all working here. So when we're looking at this slate, and I'm not going to, what's going on, Weska? And sorry, this kind of like, sporadic. Normally I like to at least have it up during the day so people at least know when it is. But when we're looking at this slate, which let me just make sure the size of the contest. I know the $1 is like 8,000. I forgot if this is still a 5,000. Let me just check really fast because I already put my stuff in last night. We'll see if it loads. Let's see if it gets there. Let's talk about Sheldon Creed first and foremost. Probably the guy who's most likely to be optimal in terms of what he can score. We look at Sheldon Creed, and it's very likely that he is going to pass 25 people. All right, this contest is 58-82. So we don't got to get like too crazy, right? But when we look at Sheldon Creed, we are taking the a guy at 10,000, which hitting 50. Now, normally we have to worry about this if it's more expensive or like a cup guy or something back the field when they're at 10,000 because, hitting 50 isn't good enough or anything. Or like, if they underperform and hit 48, that's not ideal. Whereas when we're looking at where Creed is at a price tag that really, like, we don't have to worry about that. I mean, he's hitting his value at 50. More than likely, he's going to end up scoring 54, 56, 57 points. Outside if he wrecks, but even then, like, Creed hasn't really wrecked a lot since his transition to JGR. Yeah, sure. I mean, he takes out teammates and whatnot, but we haven't necessarily had the issues that we've seen from Creed previously. So him starting 38th, I think you just play him and move on. Yeah, sure, they're changing the engine and the transmission, if I'm not mistaken, but that's something like they've had all day to do, and last night, not a concern there. When we look at top of who's the favorites to lead laps, or who are you anticipating to lead laps? I think Jones falls in line of what he normally does. A real chance Jones leads like the first 6-7 laps. And him at $8,500, I think, is still too expensive because we're probably going to see Jones finish outside the top 10. We've seen that multiple times this year, to where he starts on pole or he starts in top 3 and he leads laps and he just, fizzles out towards, second stage, and certainly through the pit stops, especially in a race like this, to where we're probably going to real chance this race ends on a fuel mileage and a green flag run to the end with, or maybe not a fuel mileage rather, but with, like, I think when we enter stage 3, regardless of what's happened in the first 2 stages, I think we probably see a majority of stage 3 green, and I think we see green flag pit stops. And now you may argue that, him being with Junior Motorsports is still, I got to mute this really fast. Give me a second. We had to bring the dog in really fast. Yeah, you can argue that Brandon Jones being in, the Junior Motorsports stable, like, would benefit him, during green flag pit stops. But I'm not saying that is not, a case that could happen. But I would just advise not playing Brandon Jones at $8,500. I don't think he works. I think he falls out of the top 10 a majority of the time. When we look at Cole Custer and Chandler Smith, now we have seen Smith start improving his runs. When we started the year, Chandler Smith, at least from what I was looking at, we expect him to run pretty decently, and he did. Then he fell off a cliff, and you could argue that Texas was like the turning point when we're looking. And normally, I'll have all the stuff on the screen, just not doing it here because I'm on one monitor. But typically, or in that Texas race, I still think that was the turning point of where we were seeing Smith be, because he technically had the fastest car. Then he got damaged, and there's just no coming back from him from that point in that race. Now you move forward, and hindsight being 2020, Custer was probably better than what we initially thought, or at least what I initially thought earlier in the year. I thought Texas was more of a fluke of And this is talking October. Looking back at stuff that happened 6-7 months ago, I thought it was more so Cole Custer benefited from having the fastest car be removed from that race, whereas right now I think we're seeing that Cole Custer is probably the strongest car, at least most consistently right now, outside of what Eric Almirola has been able to do. We'll get to him shortly. But when we're looking at Cole Custer and Chandler Smith, I would look towards Cole Custer more than Chandler Smith. Those would be the two primary guys you're looking to lead, or you would be looking to lead laps in this race. I also want to say Sam Mayer is probably in contention more times than not in this race. We play it out quite a few times. I think Sam Mayer, at least for me, would be like the tertiary option for an expensive guy. Because if we're playing Creed, right, we're taking 10K out of the salary in general for your 6 guys, we can get up to 2 other 10K guys pretty easily, especially with the value we have in this race. The Cole Custer, Smith, Sam Mayer, and Eric Almirola discussion is probably going to come into play a lot, and even Austin Hill, probably more than we want to give it credit for. And so when I'm looking at Custer, Smith, and Mayer, I think these 3 guys each have like a 33% chance of working out in this race. I think it truly is a third. I don't really have a lean, or my lean would be Cole Custer. But projection-wise, I think these 3 are very, very difficult to do. I think Sam Mayer, especially at his discount compared to 10.8 and 10.2 for Chandler Smith, I think Sam Mayer would make sense. But if you're building with Sam Mayer, it's going to depend on what he does straight up. I think the build for this race probably falls like Creed, Cole Custer, 2 values, and then whatever other 10K guy you can get to, whether it's the PD that Austin Hill might provide, the upside that Eric Almirola has been providing recently, and the JGR cars in general. Plus, you got the dead crew member Juju going on. We're probably going to see a Joe Gibbs car win this race, and or a lot of Joe Gibbs cars perform well in this race from a DFS perspective. We already have Creed coming through, so I'm not concerned about him, et cetera, et cetera. Past that, and I mean, we haven't even talked about Justin Allgaier, but I think the main contenders for this race being optimal up front would probably be Cole Custer, Eric Almirola, Austin Hill, and then probably Sam Mayer, and then Justin Allgaier, just because, yeah, Justin had an abysmal, like round 1 and whatnot, but the speeds are pretty tight here, across the board from what I'm looking at with these guys, and I think Eric Almirola is honestly probably a play that you want to prioritize. The reason I'm kind of going back and forth here is because, as I said, I think Cole Custer, Smith, Mayer, all identical plays. I don't think there's really one thing leaning more towards one of these guys. I would just lean Cole Custer based on what he's done this year and what he's done at similar tracks recently. But if you're playing Sam Mayer or Chandler Smith, I don't blame you at all. I would probably not play Allgaier. I think Allgaier is outscored by Austin Hill and Eric Almirola pretty much in any situation in this race. I don't think Justin Allgaier leads. I don't think Justin Allgaier wins this race. By default, I'm probably not interested in him. When we get to Herbst at 94, because I saw the Herbst question there, Wetska, and where I'm at, when we're looking at where let's look at the value really fast before we continue on with the expensive guys. Who is back here that we can realistically play if we're forcing in Creed right off the bat, right? And you need your early lap leaders and or lap leader in general if Creed doesn't end up leading laps, which he probably doesn't. So we probably just need the place differential or the raw points that he's going to score, which is probably going to be mid-50s at 10K. We then need to find the lap leader, either 1 and or 2 and or the winner, which is most likely one of the lap leaders. Okay, and so that means we're doing pretty much stars and scrubs types of builds. I think it's going to be very, very difficult to build a balanced line, especially when we look at least my projected points, but I'm pretty sure the means would probably be there as well. There's not a lot of value or projected value in like the 6K range and 7K range. I mean, you have situations like Taylor Gray or like Corey Heim are scoring 4.8, 4.7, 4.6 value. We really can't give them anything more because they're starting 13th and 14th. We really don't see them, pushing in the top 6 or whatever. And so focusing on like a stars and scrubs type of build leads you to very easily get or try and land on as many lap leaders as possible. And what I mean by that is like Brennan Poole and Ryan Ellis. I mean, if you look at these guys on a raw point, and typically I don't ever look at like, oh, what are they scoring previously? Like it shows, because that's just stupid. It's ridiculous to be like, oh, he's averaging, a certain amount of points here, or whatever. But go look at what Ryan Ellis and go look at what Brendan Poole is scoring. I can't believe Ellis is leaving Alpha Beta Prime to go to DGM. That seems like one of the dumbest moves ever, when Alpha Beta Prime is actually providing good cars. I mean, I joke about them a lot, but when you see Poole running raw speed in these races, finishing 17th, 18th, very easily getting, top 22 finishes. Same thing with Ryan Ellis. I mean, you see Ryan Ellis very easily getting, finishes inside the top 25 on raw speed alone, especially when they're pretty abysmal in practice and or qualifying. I would approach this race as Ellis being probably the primary value play, with Poole second in that. So if you were like building balance wise and you're using one value, it'd probably be Ellis. I would advise using both Ellis and Poole. Like if you're like, oh, Brandon, what's your core? Well, we need the plays. What are you doing here? My core would be, Ryan Ellis, Brendan Poole, Sheldon Creed. Like that's like the building block. That, for me, it makes a lot of sense if I was doing a lot of lineups to run those three together and then just mix and match up top. I think Ellis is a phenomenal play. I think Brendan Poole is a phenomenal play. I think they very easily not only hit value. I think there's real chances we see Poole and Ellis both scoring like 38 points, 36 points, as they've done previously in honestly probably shoddier situations where they're qualifying a bit higher up. I like them at intermediate tracks. I like Poole in general, though I would prioritize those two at the bottom. Now, yet again, that's like due to the fact that I'm building, or I would be building like a Stars and Scrubs type of build, and I mainly don't see a lot of value in the mid-range that I want to get to. Like, I don't really want to play Daniel Dye. I don't really want to play Anthony Alfredo. I really don't want to just get to like, Ryan Sieg or like Jesse Love or like Herbst personally for me. So that would mean I want the raw points that Creed provides me, that Ellis and Poole give me, and the raw points that the potential lap leaders are going to provide to me. That's Cole Custer, that's Eric Almirola, hell, even, Austin Hill, most likely going to be scoring anywhere from 44 to 53 points. And Hill's speed, if you look at, where he falls in the line at, start this year and even last year, he was a guy who was very much getting top fives at any track type. Now, granted, he was like qualifying fifth, so he was like unplayable in those situations when you start fifth and finish fifth. But as of late, he's had like some pretty underperforming finishes. So in terms of like positive regression, I think we should, and certainly with these tracks coming up, I think we're due for Austin Hill to get back towards like finishing fifth, sixth, fourth, like just by default. And so in this race, I think the people you'd want to prioritize expensive wise or up top would be Eric Almirola, who is just like hands above the field. You look at like when Junior jumps in the car at Bristol and just like kicks the shit out of people, right? Like the guy pitted 17,000 times and had to drive through the field on every restart. During that race, like Eric Almirola and his, the veteran skill that he has, like, and it's not even like a generic, like, oh, he's a veteran, he's going to be fast. No, you look at where or what Eric Almirola has been doing in very limited practice sessions and very limited races. I mean, he's competing right with Cole Custer. Like, I think Cole Custer and Eric Almirola are probably the two favorites entering this race to win. That's probably why I'd want to play them. Austin Hill started 17th. Like I said, I think he can score anywhere from 44 to 54 points in this race. I think he is due to finishing in the top five more and more. Like due to that, those are the people I'd be prioritizing. I would be spinning all the way up with getting multiple 10K guys, and then playing Poole and Ellis and stuff. I know you brought up Josh Williams, at least if I'm not mistaken here. So Josh Williams is pretty bad. He's actually trash. He's starting 23rd today. I gave him a solid like 17th, 16th finishing position. Just not doing it for me. Like when I look at from Jeremy Clements, if you exclude Ellis and Poole on the starting grid, from Jeremy Clements, and even then, like, I mean, I have like Ryan Ellis at 21 points, and Pool at 25 on my projections, and they're the best plays at that number, right? From what I have. But from Jeremy Clements all the way down to AO and 37th, I don't have any of these guys projected value. So I would have like no interest in like Dylan Lepton, no interest in Parker Retzloff, no interest in Benedetto, Leland, Kyle Weatherman, Daniel Dye. Like I would just, why would I bother playing guys who are projected so poorly when I could just play, guys projected in a similar projection range, Poole and Ellis, at a substantially lower price tag, who have shown us time and time again that they can score very well. Now, I mean, if you haven't done this, I mean, take a look at it. If I can get this point, actually, I'll just do it on my laptop. It's way faster than my phone. And this is why, typically I look at, race pace and not practice stuff, just because this comes across easier. But when you look at, let's just look at Ellis's last few laps. He's averaging 24.4 lap or 24.1 fantasy points and stuff. And even then, based on his, pricing, he's hitting that. But you look at his races and you look at where he starts, whatever. He had a bad race at the Roval. We're not playing him at the Roval. But you just go through all these races, whether it's the Glen, short tracks, 45, 34, 20, 48, 34, 34, 3, 52, 30, negative 127, 19, negative 15, 35, 24, 35. Ellis is why would we not be playing Ellis? Very similar the Rick Ware cars this year. Why would you not play him in Cup? Same thing with Poole. Oh, road course. We're not playing Poole at road courses. 57, 35, 38, 27, 39, 31, 43, 11, 30, 17, 28, 18, 32, 0, 48, 39. Why are they still in the 5K range? Poole should be week in, week out, Poole should be 6,800. Ryan Ellis should be 5,900, 6,000. It's crazy. Just play those two and move on today. And I don't really see a reason to get to other guys. And I will say, if I was not doing stars and scrubs, I got Taylor Gray at 40 points. I got Corey Haim at 37. Geez Louise. My thing is how does Eric Almirola not lead in this race? This seems like a race to where Cole Custer is gonna lead 45 to 60 laps, whatever pit stops people run long. And then this seems like a race where Eric Almirola leads 35 laps, gets 13 fast laps, and finishes third or second or something And if those guys aren't leading, who are the primary guys that probably lead in this race? Probably Chandler Smith, Sam Mayer, possibly Allgaier in that range. But I just think you swing for the fences here. I think you stack the 10K range, and then I think you just stack the value range. Who's my primary Yeah, I would absolutely just probably prioritize Creed, Custer, and Eric Almirola up top. That's where I'm at. And if I wasn't doing that, if I don't or if you don't like Eric Almirola, it's Austin Hill. It's Creed, Austin Hill, or Eric Almirola. And I thought about running without an early lap leader, without Custer. I think the lineup, using the two guys we talked about with Eric Almirola, Austin Hill, and Creed, I think that line cashes, right? And it's a primary contender to take the contest down if Cole Custer runs into issues, that's the types of builds that I would be using today. I just don't think there's any reason to waste your time building balance lineups or guys from the 9K to the 7s, right? I just personally wouldn't do that. What's going on, Tom? I'm at my girlfriend's place. But yeah, I think that's mainly it. I think it's a pretty straightforward race. I think it's absolute stars and scrubs because you have to play Creed. I think Ellis and Poole, which not even here. I'm going to be on the entire Xfinity series or season. I have had Poole or Ellis in every single line this year, and I've ran both before. That has been honest to God, like the first thing I do when I'm looking at lines and projections, like, oh, where's Ellis and where's Poole? Oh, Ellis is starting 33rd, playing Ellis, right? Like that's how I've gone. And typically they have not been the reason why lines fail or whatever. Because we went through the points together. These guys realistically, like, it's not even 99th percentile outcome. That's why I think a lot of sims and stuff in this for motorsports are like broken, because like fucking Poole and Ellis scoring like 35 points is not a 99th percentile outcome, right? That's like 75th percentile. So like, why would you not be playing those guys in this race or like going forward whenever they're priced at that? But I do believe that's it. I think it's a pretty straightforward slate. It's 5,800 people in the contest, so you don't have to do crazy stuff. You don't have to get crazy. You don't have to be like, oh, I gotta build some wild shit. I think you play Creed, move on. I think you play Ryan Ellis and Poole, you move on, and then you just mix and match up top. So that's what I would do. I think Custer is probably the guy that I would be leaning towards if I had to play one of the guys in top 4. But I would not doubt you if you played Eric Almirola, Austin Hill, and Creed, because I think that has a very good chance of cashing, like, straight up. And if Custer runs into any issues, and or primary lap leader runs into any issues, speeds on pit lane in stage 3, whatever, I think that's a line that can fight to be optimal. I think Eric Almirola is a great play today. I think he's probably the second favorite to win. And that's how I would approach it. So hopefully this helps you guys out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I know they're like queuing or practicing or whatever for the Cup Series. I'll get that stuff uploaded tonight. I'll probably be live tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And yeah, thank you very much for hanging out. 30 of you guys here. It caught me last minute. You guys have a good day, and I will see you guys later.